So the title of my project is The Holistic Artist. It's the title of my podcast series that I wanted to start. So I'll kind of take you guys through the origin of that, where it came from, and then show you the website a little bit, the SoundCloud page, and then get into some of the interviews, talk about some of the things that I learned through them. So this origin of the project kind of came about because I knew I wanted to include these things in my project. I knew I wanted to have it be related to my favorite part about music, which is the community aspect and the relationship aspect of it. So even from the smallest part, the smallest aspect of music. So let's take like sound waves for example. It's all about the relationship of one thing to another. So it's the highs and lows, the troughs and the valleys of the waveform, stuff like that. I like that metaphor a lot. And go to one of the largest scale aspects of music. Take an orchestra, for example. You can't make a great recreation of a piece without good relationships between each instrument, um, conductor to the band, anything like that. So a big part of music to me is relationship and kind of that communal aspect of it. Another thing I wanted to highlight is that I didn't really have any direction as a freshman coming into college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had some musical knowledge here and there, but didn't really have a set direction. So I kind of wanted to highlight or create something that could help people that would be like me in that position who might not have any direction on where they're going, either in school, in music school, or after. So yeah, and that kind of um, those putting those two things together, those relationships that I made with professors or students, that is one of the most important things I learned was one networking with them, but also some of the most important knowledge I learned was from conversations with them. So I wanted to find a way to almost exploit those relationships and the knowledge that I got to learn, the perspective that I got to glean off of these people, and I wanted to find a way to put that out somewhere. And then yeah, going back a little bit, even through these um, network connections, I found myself playing in different circles, different venues, and it kind of got me really connected with the music scene around Indy and the Midwest. So I really wanted to produce something that could help people do the same, to help people learn from people around them. And the best way that I thought to capture these different perspectives was some kind of podcast or interview series, a way to highlight, both spotlight and highlight these artists around the area that people might not, know of, or that people do know of but don't know anything about their origin stories or kind of their connection to music. I wanted to bring awareness to their work, different artists and creatives around India, the Midwest, and also provide a resource for aspiring musicians to learn from. So people like me, people like that are coming up, specifically in school, but even it can be outside the academic circles, and are aspiring to be working musicians. Sometimes you just don't know like what it's like. I wanted to discuss some content that deals with the reality of being a musician and kind of the day to day practices and advice uh, in that respect. I kind of viewed this project also as a stepping stone for to a bigger project. So what it is now is basically a series of interviews. But what I want to do with this is use it as a platform to actually start a real podcast that will continue after school and kind of loop it in with some of my personal services as well. But the goal ultimately is to keep this going, and I have some more interviews lined up, and would really love to have every other Friday releases and make it an actual established thing. Before get into showing you guys the website and get into some of the interview content, a few problems that came up with this were the audio quality. Didn't have too much familiarity with interviewing in general, so I had a small Zoom recorder, and so some of these interviews are not the best quality, and it was interesting to find ways to edit that. And eventually, with each one, I found different practices and was able to work my way up to using uh, actual microphones and got it to sound really good. But another problem that might come up is this whole virus situation. There's not I don't know how hard it's going to be to interview people in person. It might not be hard at all. But so I've been kind of brainstorming ways to still do this, still continue this project after graduation and all. even if it's from a remote location. So trying to find ways to interview over the phone or over video calls or things like that. But yep. So that's where the project came from, kind of where I'm at with it now. And now I'll try to find a way to get the screen to. I can show you guys the website in the SoundCloud page. So let's hop over here. This is the SoundCloud page right here. Um, Made a little logo for it. And right now there are 3 interviews posted. I had 4, but one of them got deleted off of my hard drive, so I have to find a way to gather that again. But yeah, this is what the main page looks like in the website. Here it is. Once I flesh more than the podcast out, I'm hopefully going to include some different links up here to some of my personal services as well. But let's hop on over to the podcast page. It's kind of ran as a blog too, which is nice. So I'll be able to put um, to schedule the release dates and put the dates on them and everything and the time it takes to listen to them and all that. But let's take Joe for example. Got the little SoundCloud link quote embedded in here. But yeah, so this is the layout of everything, and now I'll kind of take you guys through some of the content of some stuff I was able to learn that hopefully will be able to post some things to listeners to this presentation as well. But let's hop back over to this screen. Yeah, so one of the first people I got to interview was Joe Tucker. Some of you guys might know him. He's a guitarist, band leader, educator, based in Indianapolis and Muncie and Bloomington. Um, but yeah, so one of the first things we talked about was the importance of listening. So Joel kind of grew up in a musical family, a musical house, but one of the biggest things he's learned from his musical journey so far is immersing yourself in what you want to get into. So in his case, that was jazz early on. Going back and listening to the greats, listening to that you want to be like, and that'll help you form your own sound. And that's not something that I knew really coming into the school. I was just like, man, I want to practice and I want to learn all this stuff and I want to be so and so, so and so. I want to be Brian Blade. I want to be like as big as Miles Davis, something like that. Just idealistic views. But I mean, one of the biggest things that Joel was just talking about was the importance of starting off by listening and really exposing yourself to whatever it is that you want to start creating. I also asked him about songwriting dynamics in a group setting because he's a part of several groups. He leads one, the Tucker Brothers group, and I was just asking him what were his approaches to writing, especially when there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, musically. Um, yeah, I was imagining that it would be hard to sift through ideas, and even as myself, as I've been able to work with different groups and different artists, it can be hard combining ideas and everything. And and I'll play a little clip of this as well. But actually, I'll just play that now so you guys can hear what he said about it. Six.
It's different who can do things other than just straight ahead jazz.
And different things to offer. What's the writing process like for you guys? Is it mainly you and Nick? Is it everyone? Is it just you?
Yeah, it's different for each tune, really. So, in the past, we have written separately and just brought our ideas to the group and workshopped them together. Um, and then we've also written melodies. Say, for instance, I write a melody, and Nick will put harmony to it. That's another really unique process that we have, where I just say, "Oh man, I wrote this melody, but I can't think of any chords to go along with it." And Nick, he writes a bass line, and all of a sudden the melody and the bass line sort of imply a harmony. Uh, and that's an interesting way of writing. It's not always um, we don't always have a vision in mind with what we've originally written, and I think that's okay. I do think that there's something to be said about having a very clear vision, making it uh, very clear to your bandmates what you want with your tunes, and we've done that before as well. I'll bring a song in, and instead of workshopping it, I just am like, okay, Sean, I want you to do this. I want you to play this way. Brian, I want you to play this way. And Nick, I want you to play the exact bass line that I wrote. And they're all okay with that because they recognize, okay, well, he has a certain thing in mind. This isn't something that he wants to be workshopped. Um,
So yeah, there's just a little clip of some of that interview, just talking about writing, and yeah, the last thing that I took away from this was just the importance of practicing the basics and fundamentals. That's another thing that coming into college I really didn't even want to hear. Practicing, um, yeah, the bare bones stuff like major scales, minor scales, stuff that we all I think we know. But one of the cool quotes I pulled from this was he said the fundamentals are what makes bad music good, good music great, and great music exceptional. So yeah, hopefully this interview can speak to some of these aspects, and for people curious about these type of things. Also, the title, this says never finished. I asked each of the interviewees if there was one phrase and one word that describes their musical journey, to them what that would be, and that's what I used for the title of each episode. So the one he gave was never finished, kind of just pointing to the fact that music's an ever growing, ever learning process. But yeah, so we'll go on to one of my close friends from India. His name's Jake Brothers. He's a creative arts director at a church in Indianapolis. And some stuff we talked about was the importance of being creative outside of your job. So he works, yeah, in the church. It's a larger church, and he gets to write songs for them and lead songs weekly there. But also he writes on the side as well, and he doesn't do it as much anymore. But he used to perform, um, yeah, like downtown and at different venues. Um, and that's another thing that for some of us that are going into full time jobs that don't have anything to do with music necessarily, um, we're like, well, I don't know, can I still do music on the side? And he kind of talked about that too. So I'm certain that there are people out there, people that I know and don't know, that would benefit from hearing of different ways to still create when you have like a full time job per se. And he has a family as well, so we just talked about balancing that. He also discussed a little bit about his kind of spiritual connection to music, and the one thing I took from that was just how helpful it is to connect with something deeper when you're creating or writing, and that looks different for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And for him, it was he has some kind of spiritual connection, but some ways that makes it a part of who you are is something that can make careers soar and make people actually make their name known in any kind of scene. Is having a reason for doing it. So yeah, that was something interesting I got from this. And then the last thing was the importance of taking care of the people you work with. So he's a leader at this church, and he kind of has he has coworkers, but also people under him and people that he develops. So yeah, he was just talking about the importance of um, also, yeah, I mean, listening to other artists, listening to younger artists, because he's a little older, but um, being around those people and having that community. So yeah, all you guys' music can flourish, and you can all build off of each other, and seeing potential people. And it was interesting. He said the role of the teacher is one of the roles is to develop students to the point of passing the teacher in skills, and that's something that is encouraging to a student like myself, and probably to other people too, to know that there are people that are looking to um, help all of us kind of together and grow to the point where as the tides turn, as the generations turn, each generation is better at something. In this case, music. Um, but yeah, I was. Let's see. Do I want to? Yeah, play a little bit of this one too, tiny bit. What was it?
Or keep me young, and it helps. Part of our role is, and when I can see that, when I can see a student that I've grown with and help them develop and mentor, get to a point where they're passing me in their skills, it just brings me a lot of joy. And so I'm a natural developer. I love to see people grow around me. I love giving people opportunities to grow, even in areas that they're not sure about yet. And I see potential in people beyond what they see in themselves often. And so I just love those opportunities to help people grow and see them come to a point where they're working in excellence and
But yeah, so that's a little bit of Jake's interview. So yeah, he's one of my close friends down in Indy, and his word was passion. So let's go on to one more. I think I have time for one more at least. I actually got to interview my brother Avery. He's a killing musician. He's about to be a senior in high school. I've got to learn a lot from him, and even though he's my younger brother, still has a lot to offer. And this interview was one of my favorite ones to do. I think it'll help people that are in high school or are even in college looking to explore, looking to find ways to write and balance all that. So yeah, I'm really excited to release this one. Yeah, one thing we talked about was the importance of avoiding too much comparison. So it's one of the most helpful but most destructive things as a creative, as an artist, to compare yourself to others, because we all have people we want to be like. I don't know, Marcus, if you wanted to be like Phil Woods, you know what I'm saying? You listen to a lot of Phil Woods, John Coltrane, but if you if you compare yourself too much to them, no offense to you, Marcus, like it might be discouraging, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like none of us are them. So he kind of talked about that a little bit and how it's important just to get what you can out there, you know, and to just kind of trust the process. And like I said before, we're all kind of after the same goal, you know, to create art, to create music and make a living from it. So yeah, he gave a good word on that. He's a self-taught musician, and he's obviously, I mean, he's in high school, so he's still learning, just like we all are. But he talked about some of the advantages of that and kind of the new age we're in of learning a lot online and being able to do a lot from, I mean, like our bedrooms. You know how many bedroom producers there are out there. It's crazy. But he kind of talked about that, and it was cool to get a perspective of someone even younger than us who's coming up more so in this digital age, and how it affects music and all that. So yeah, that should be helpful to some people in similar positions to that. Both of us had a job last summer writing for a place in Indy, and they gave us topics to write about, and we kind of make songs for them. So I kind of asked him about his experience with that, different ways to when you are writing for people, because a lot of us that are songwriters might end up writing for other people, producing other people's music. So I kind of wanted to shed a light on that a little bit, and talk about the differences between writing for yourself and writing for others. But yeah, let's get a little bit of this in. Just here. Oh,
And it's different for
I'll play you guys the intro sometime too, because it's pretty slick.
everybody. So
Gotcha. Yeah. One thing I really love about your music, and for those of you that don't are familiar with Avery's music, I'll link it in the on the website because it's really dope. You should check it out. But I love your songwriting process because it's fast for one. I think in my experience of seeing you do that, but also it's interesting and different from other people that I know. So if you could walk me through kind of when you have an idea, how do you get that out of your head, and how do you finish the song typically?
usually it has changed a little bit from like the first things I've written to now. But I mean, things that have never changed are I start on guitar. There's only a few songs that I haven't actually started on guitar that I've actually finished. That's just the easiest for me to write to, and I'm most familiar with it. So that's like one thing that usually doesn't change. Um, as far as writing goes, sometimes it starts with an idea. Sometimes it starts with the actual musical part. But I don't know. The more I do it, the more I realize that like it doesn't really matter which approach I use. I just have to really be into what I'm either writing or what I'm making musically. So it's just kind of it changes as I go. But I mean, ideas come and go. Sometimes it's frustrating because I have an idea and I have to get it done really fast or else I forget it. And sometimes I do things too much and do them over and over, so I get sick of it and I don't end up finishing. But if I really am into a certain thing, then I can finish it pretty easily and fast. Yeah, that's how it usually goes.
But he gets a little bit more into that as it goes on. I think I clicked the wrong spot, so that didn't really match what I was talking about here. But yeah, it was cool to be able to interview him, and I know a lot of people that are songwriters in the same position as him, kind of like wondering, I mean, how to actually finish things, especially as a high school student. Like, there's a lot of transition going on. But yeah, I know a lot of people that would benefit from that. And yeah, the last person I got to interview was Cassius Goins. His interview is the one that deleted off my hard drive, so I got to find that and figure out, you know, what to do with that because it was a good one. But yeah, drummer, educator, band leader, based out of Indy. He talked a little bit about the importance of networking as well, and putting your name out there. A lot of us have the practice room mentality or practice room syndrome where we're like, man, I'm going to practice all day, every day. And then we never actually sit in anywhere or we never actually record anything or play. I'm guilty of that all the time. He kind of talked about that and how, yeah, sometimes the most difficult step is just sitting in somewhere or taking a leap and playing somewhere with people and meeting people. Um, but yeah, a lot of it comes down to who you know. A lot of times in any creative circle, especially in the music world. So he discussed that a little bit. He's a father as well, and he's been married for a while. He got like 4 or 5 kids. So he was talking about yeah, sometimes having to make hard decisions for the betterment of your family or whatever your situation looks like personally. Um, but yeah, also why it's good to have multiple outlets. So if you say no to one gig for something, you're not just like done, you know. And that's where that networking component comes in. So if you know a lot of people, it's easy to get um, yeah, more opportunities. But yeah, and his word was freedom, kind of the freedom he gets from playing. And yeah, so those are all the interviewees so far. And yeah, basically, I mean, this project is you know, in process, but I wanted to put as much out there as possible to begin with and kind of give you guys a vision of what I'm going for. But yeah, this is something that I would have greatly benefited from coming in as a freshman to have a place that is just, you know, stocked full of different advice in different circles too. Like some of this is geared toward people that are wanting to go into church music. Some of it's geared toward jazz musicians. Some of it's geared toward people that are songwriters coming up. So yeah, the goal is just to have this specific musician audience, but also take a broad approach and like, hey, if you need help with anything, you know, coming up in music or the creative world, like this is your place to go. This is the place to kind of glean some of that perspective and knowledge. And I know, yeah, that's something I would have benefited from. But yeah, that's my project, and I'm just yeah wanting to be dedicated to making everyone a holistic artist, including myself, and being well rounded. But that's all I got, and thanks for listening.